Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Roka News Show. We are so thrilled to have you, Billy. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. Great to be here.
Awesome. We love it. All right. So it's Friday, man, and we wanted to do a deep dive on a couple topics that are just unbelievably important. They kind of flew under the radar this week, but are just as newsworthy as any event we covered on the show this week. And they are about AI. So let's get right into it. Sora 2, ladies and gentlemen, is the new AI model released by OpenAI, Sam Altman's company, also the parent, of course, of ChatGPT, and its videos are absolutely, utterly insane in their realism and their immediate potential to displace tons of jobs. I watched some of these videos that we're about to play a couple samples, and immediately I wonder, what is the future of CGI workers? Not in 30 years, not in 5 years, not in 3 years, tomorrow, or at least 6 months in the immediate term. Video editors, what's their future? Even writers. Now, this predates Sora 2, but advertisers, if you're putting together a commercial, you no longer need a script writer. You can sort of just you'll see in a second. And then also, even journalists. There have been a number of super viral accounts, over 1 million followers on TikTok, of fake journalists, AI-generated journalists doing man-on-the-street interviews. And yes, part of the appeal is the novelty of it. It's somewhat of a gimmick. It's sort of unexpected. A lot of them are politically incorrect, and so they're kind of edgy and funny because it's AI doing it. But my goodness, they feel authentic. Like if someone didn't tell you it was AI. So we're going to talk about some of the risks. Billy and I are going to talk a little bit about a positive headline that might shock you in the context of this about declining social media use. And then we're also going to tie in the surging share of electricity consumption by data centers, especially those powering AI. So Billy, let's take a look at some of these Sora videos, or at least one or two. I always think it's annoying when someone plays like a 10-minute. So this one is an entire, it's a mini South Park episode generated with Sora 2. Let's take a look.
Pickleball is the hottest craze sweeping
about
South Park.
pickleball.
Residents young and old are flooding courts, wielding tiny paddles and whacking plastic balls like their lives depend on it.
El deporte que está arrasando en South Park se llama pickleball.
Pickleballaroo! 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 Pickleballaroo!
Dude, this sucks. We've been out here 10 minutes and I'm already bored out of my mind. Pickleball's a lame-ass old people game. Rich old people like pickleball? Oh shit, I'm gonna be rich.
It's like a perfect recreation of South
cards
Park.
of John freaking Benz. $6? That's practically free.
Dude, how crazy is
so
this?
much money.
I mean, you're more of a South Park viewer than I mean, how accurate is that?
Like 100%.
Insane. I every time they have a new model and it's like, oh, Google VO4, that's going to blow your mind. And to be fair, Google VO4 was insane, and it led to the Kalshi commercial that, they aired on TV, and holy shit, it was a huge hit. Everyone went crazy over that. But this is the first one that has me going, okay, it's not a 6 month from now thing, it's a now thing.
Right. I wonder if it's a matter of also this. Right, it's a cartoon, right? It's South Park, but it looked perfect, the way they were moving their heads and everything. I assume that's way easier for an AI to do than a real life video with real people. I think we have another example on here that's real, right?
Yeah, we do. We have, another, and then there are so many issues to talk about. Yeah, it's just, this one's more of like a silly one, but the kind of thing that could be on social media feeds in the near term.
You ever notice how a banana's like a phone from nature? Hello? Yeah, it's for you. Potassium's calling. Watch this. No, look. 3-point pill. Hee hee. Swish. I'm dangerous in the kitchen, baby. You ever notice?
Again, it's obviously, that one is less likely to be airing on your TV anytime soon, but I saw this fact, which I haven't been able to join the Sora app. This is going to make me sound like a loser because it's invite only, and I just tried to download it right before the show. And so I'll have to find a friend who has the app and can send an invite code. But it's, first of all, OpenAI now has 2 of the top 3 free apps on the App Store, which is insane to think about.
And 2 of the 3, you said?
2 of the 3.
What is it?
ChatGPT and Sora.
Oh, wow.
Already. Sora released on October 1st. And then ChatGPT, I still think it's atop the leaderboard. And so you have, this new app that isn't just functioning as a text to video AI generator, it's also functioning as a social media content feed. And so there is a potential future where people are going to start to do. And another important fact of it, because you're like, okay, won't this get old though? Michael Jackson making banana songs, fake South Park episodes. Well, guess what? There's a cameo feature to Sora 2 that allows you to essentially lend your likeness or that of one of your friends with a little bit of, you have to send a picture, I think a video, some audio, and then it can include you in the videos. So all of a sudden you could creative direct yourself in any video, and the future Mr. Beast could be Mr. Beast if he never left his bedroom telling people to burn someone in a building for $500,000.
Do you think we'd ever get there, though, that people accept an AI Mr. Beast in a video?
That's an amazing question. And I actually, when we went to Silicon Valley recently for a reporting trip, I remember interviewing a guy who was the product manager of Google VO4, and he was also building, he had just quit his job, and he was building a TikTok AI app. So essentially this kind of idea, it's Michael Jackson videos and what you're talking about, AI Mr. Beast. And I asked him that, and he said, well, one thing it's going to do is it's going to lower the barriers to entry, because right now to make it on social media, you have to be really pretty or extra.
Like
you have, or extroverted. Or loud, that's like me. Or you have to essentially, there are a lot of traits that help people succeed. Obviously, there are exceptions to those rules, but he's saying, no, you can make someone pretty now, and they can do the content for you. And so he says that it'll allow many more people to become content creators, flooding the space even more, and kind of knocking down the tyranny of like pretty funny, outgoing, charismatic people.
Do you buy that you have to be pretty for it to work?
As you said, like we're, I hope, living counterexamples, but I mean, the truth of that, I think, is that there is a bias toward looks. Like you even think of the people who make it in cable news. I don't think this is all new. Like they used to be extremely restrictive in, the kind of broadcast anchors and what they look like. And like you couldn't get a job if you were bald, which would have been bad news for me. Joe Rogan kind of shattered that barrier in media, much less of an issue now. Now almost everyone with the big podcasts. And then you had, of course, all the pretty anchors, and it almost became a gimmick. And then TikTok, it's absurd. If you look at the most followed accounts, there are some exceptions, like Mr. Beast isn't particularly good looking. He sort of hacked the algorithms with his amazing hooks and premises and all that. But everyone else is good looking. So I don't think you need to be pretty, but it's a huge advantage. And so, okay, without going too far into like theorizing about what Sora 2 will become, because I agree with you. I actually don't think people will know. Like, if you remember the peak of the NFT crave, everyone was like, well, looks like, computer-generated art is the future, AI-generated art. How many people are happy about their, Bored Yacht Club token now? How many people are thrilled about buying, some shitty AI artwork for, $100,000? Like, that kind of faded. So would people get tired of this? Maybe, but like, there are some accounts already that have over 1 million followers, like the Sasquatch humor one, this one on the Man on the Street Journalist AI account. So I don't know, Billy. It'll be interesting to see.
That it will.
Okay, so there are a few things that kind of are related to this that I think are worth talking about. And the first is the implications of these new platforms. So, Billy, I think we have the new electric grid chart here. So this isn't just AI, to be clear, but we saw this chart and we thought you'd find it fascinating. So since 2010, the percentage of state energy consumption that comes from data centers has soared. Virginia, for example, data centers went from taking up about, looks like 2% of power to now 39% of electricity in Virginia is used by data centers. You see similar surges. It's interesting to see some states where that upward incline predated the sort of ChatGPT moment. And so it was already trending in this direction with cloud computing and the Amazon, the AWS rush, Oracle, all of that, they've been building for a while for cloud computing and whatnot. But you do see in some states like North Dakota and also Utah, you see huge rises during the OpenAI boom. So what people are now pointing out, and this is in the Futurism article at the top, is that it's not just it is like this is only going to get crazier. So OpenAI's new data center will take up more electricity than the peak of Switzerland and Portugal, and it'll take more power than all of New York City and San Diego combined. So their new deal with NVIDIA will where NVIDIA will deploy upwards of 10 gigawatts of AI data centers. That will take up more electricity than New York and San Diego combined. So, I mean, and we've talked before about how one ChatGPT query takes up more energy than 10 Google searches. So that is kind of mind-boggling. And when you think about how ChatGPT is, the top free app on the App Store, and it's when I think of my nephews and younger cousins, like they are immediately going to ChatGPT for any question about homework, life, health, relationships, crazy shit. So it's unbelievable to see where this is trending. I mean, and it's also a little annoying that some people's electricity bills are going up 30% just so that someone can make a video of an obese woman collapsing a glass bridge and falling into the water, and then having a bunch of bots comment about how crazy this is and how heroic the dog is that rescued her. And then all of a sudden you have this weird sort of, power demanding cycle of absolute and utter slop that's overtaking our feeds and rising our electric bills. So that's a kind of bizarre position.
If there's any solace to be offered here, some people do say that the massive demand increase of energy is going to accelerate the push towards clean energy. Do with that what you will.
Do with that. I'm going to go on a bender tonight.
Best day of my life.
Best day of my life. It's funny. Like I had this thought of like, it's weird to get some of these dystopian headlines, to see Sora 2 and to see, the story we covered last week about the teen suicide who had, had become so close to OpenAI and it led him astray. And there's so many horror stories emerging like that now. And then at the same time, you see other headlines like this from today, that OpenAI is now the most valuable it's the most valuable private company in the world with a $500 billion valuation. You also saw a few days ago, this is from late September, that xAI, Elon Musk's AI company, is worth $200 billion. And you also saw headlines of Larry Ellison is now, worth over $340 billion. Elon Musk just hit $500 billion. He's down at $480 billion. So there is enormous wealth being created at the time of these headlines. And so I'm wondering, I never knew that opening Pandora's box would be so lucrative. I mean, if you think about all the fears and doomsday scenarios that these incredibly lucrative companies and technologies are creating, whether those are deep fakes, like there was that Sora 2 video of Sam Altman robbing a liquor store and what looks to be CCTV footage, and it's so realistic. And then you start to wonder, what if we have more of those? What if people lend their likeness or their friend's likeness or their foe in high school's likeness to something they didn't do, and it circulates quickly, and all of a sudden they're defending themselves against a totally fake video? And then you have other concerns about mass political misinformation. I remember for an organization like Roka, with Sora 2 available, I don't know how we're going to cover the next war. I mean, these videos are so utterly realistic, and I remember it was already difficult to verify war footage from Gaza in the early days of the conflict. It was very difficult to identify real footage from Ukraine in the early days of the Russia-Ukraine war. And all of a sudden, the next time we have a war, it's going to be impossible to discern what's real and what's not real. Because when both of those conflicts broke out, we had pretty good detection capabilities for AI. It's not the same now. And then all of a sudden, this will empower the existing authorities even more, because you can verify what comes out of some of the more trusted sources. And all of a sudden, it might widen inequality. Everyone loves to talk about democratizing news and this and that and how AI will help with this. I think it'll do the opposite because of verification. And anons aren't going to be trusted anymore. I mean, Billy, like, I'll give you a concrete example. I remember looking up the early protests from Palestine, beyond just the war footage in different cities. And you kind of had to trust some like anonymous accounts or like some small accounts, and they'll say, hey, this is happening in Switzerland. How are we going to do that now? Seriously.
Well, isn't it the same problem, though? Because, you take, for instance, Ukraine, when that started going down, and, there's the constant bombing and cars exploding and whatnot. There were videos people could post online, say, hey, this just happened. It was, a car blowing up, and it could have happened, halfway across the world 5 years earlier, and you'd have no idea. I saw this a lot. I've seen this a lot recently with natural disasters on X, where people, like, there's massive flooding in, like, New Jersey, and people will post these videos saying it's New Jersey, but the video is actually, from a few years ago in Tennessee. And over time, I don't even know how, somehow those videos get figured out usually, whether it's Grok or someone else. So I guess on that point also AI detection is getting better, but don't you think this is a problem we've had for a while, and so it's not necessarily totally new in that they're fake videos all of a sudden?
Definitely, that's a very fair point. But I will even say that, like, you could always go to a source. One example, because that's the natural disaster one's a great example. Every time there's a hurricane, they end up showing the video of the shark on the highway from Florida. But you could trace back the original video to a local broadcast, I think from Southwest Florida, that showed the shark. And so all of a sudden you're like, okay, it's the same video now, and we can trace it to on X. It'll show this was posted in 2017. So we at least know that it's not new. I think it's going to be harder to verify new videos. Like, if it's a video that's already circulated and someone can disprove it by showing an old version of it, that's one thing. But if it's like a brand new video of a shark swimming in the traffic lane from some account and it looks like someone is from Southwest Florida, I don't know what you'll do with that, especially with this bot problem. I mean, in a recent episode, we talked about the incredible bot problem. I mean, it's possible that between 20 and 50% of accounts or more on X are bots. I mean, that's stunning. And so you have all these issues like the social media detection issue. But you're right, Billy. I also think you're 100% right that, like, it's not like this issue's out of nowhere. I mean, people have been talking about, like, the idea that political misinformation is going to be new. Come on. But I'll give you a few examples I wrote down of videos that I thought were, like, I don't know how they would be handled if they came out today. So bear with me. Do you remember the video in 2016 of Hillary Clinton struggling to get in the car, and it looked like she, like, got sick for a second?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and it was toward November, and it had a huge implication, and people thought there was a body double the following day. That video was released and filmed by a random bystander who had, like, no followers. So it wasn't like a credible journalist that's done this before. And I'm like, if I saw that person post it tomorrow, I don't know if I would believe it. That kind of video. Another one is, this one's a little easier to verify, but like the Billy Bush grabber by the video that, with Trump. I don't know how well we could trust that at this point if it came out tomorrow. Maybe you'd have ABC get on it, but then the right will say, well, ABC's a woke, rag. Of course, they're going to confirm it. Anyways, I just think it's going to be harder to verify some of this stuff, and whatever the verification technologies will be, or it'll just be our judgment, it's just going to be a unique problem, and OpenAI's creating this, and they're making a freaking fortune while they do it.
So let me ask you a question.
Please, fire away.
I think those are really interesting examples. Would you say a parallel to that is a local authority maybe not a local authority. Say there's news out of Ghana, and it says there has been a terrible tragedy, 30 people died. Say that happened 100 years ago. And there's no video.
Yeah.
But you assume it's real because it's being reported.
Right.
Now, I guess you could make the argument that news companies used to be more important in the past, and this is why they were trusted. I wonder if this is going to maybe force restoration of trust in news a little bit, if
That is true.
Somehow they become the ones that are able to verify these things. According to ChatGPT, AI detection software is about a few months behind like AI, as in like a new video software comes out, it takes them a few months to catch up and be able to tell whether it's fake or not. I mean, that might be like North Korea saying they're not committing war crimes, but just something of note there too.
That's super interesting. On the issue of news companies gaining trust potential, I think that's spot on. I think people are realizing that as awful as the legacy media is, and I mean, obviously the premise of Roca is we don't trust the news. Most Americans don't. By the way, Gallup came out with a new survey this week. I didn't even send it, but news trust is even lower now. So we're going to have to change we the 66 to like we the 72. But so yes, but people are also realizing as trust in news declines that at least the New York Times had a fact-checking operation. Was it foolproof? No. Did they narrowly select stories that confirmed their readers' liberal bias? Yes, 100%. Did they ignore stories that would have challenged it? Yes, 100%. But it's not like they pulled shit out of thin air. Like almost never I can think of an example of the New York Times. I'm talking about like truly making something up. And that is something that I think alternative or independent journalists are more liable to do. And one advantage of Roca News, or it can be a cost to have a brand, but we view it as an advantage that like if we screw up, anyone who's ever affiliated with Roca will have their credibility damaged. I mean, it has a long-term implication, and so it creates a healthy sort of pressure.
I think we'd also hear about it pretty quickly in the comments, too.
Yes.
Like people are quick with that.
Dude, they are so quick with that. I mean, we have, and that's like another area of accountability that we have that like the New York Times doesn't. It's like we have such a two-way street with our audience that you do, primarily on the Instagram. But it's just so weird to at one get the dystopian headlines of teen committing suicide due to OpenAI's encouragement or ChatGPT's encouragement, to see at the same time Sora 2 presenting new problems for gauging political misinformation and all this. And to be fair, OpenAI has banned revenge porn, and they've done some things to basically curb like some of these concerns. But you have all these freaky stories coming out of OpenAI, all the job displacement that's happening already. And at the same time, you see, holy shit, they're the most valuable private company in the world. I mean, all the dystopian fears that people have about AI, will OpenAI be held liable at all? Will there be any consideration of the havoc they wreak in several areas, whether that's creating deep fakes, whether that's creating political misinformation en masse, the likes of which we've never seen, whether that's displacing millions of jobs?
Let me stop you there on that point.
Yes.
Do you think it's OpenAI's responsibility if that stuff happens? And on this point, it is kind of like suing Mazda for running someone over with your car.
That's a fair point. I think, though, if you have the ability to encourage Mazda to create more safety protocols or safety technologies in the car, which they are regulated to do that, then I think AI should also have safeguards. But you still make a point, like there is some risk. And anytime you have it's like the written word has caused wars, right? Like the written word has done a lot of these things that we fear AI. I think the ease with which AI enables it, the ease with which it like distorts reality in a way that any cinematographer or editor never could have, I still feel like this is a new frontier. But you're right. I mean, there are risks. And I also, to be clear, don't think there should be like a mass ban of OpenAI, but I think that there should be more pressure on it because these people are making so much money. And I'll tell you this, Billy, I feel like we're going to be even harsher against OpenAI when it starts to displace even more people in our industry. And like immediately. I think that it's just going to keep going after people. So, yeah, I mean, are there risks that are inherent with many companies? Yes. Do they feel like so ingrained in OpenAI? And by the way, them encouraging kids to commit suicide or at least like participating in that is like absurd. I mean, I don't know many cars that have done that. So I think there are some unique threats for OpenAI. So yeah, dude, I mean, I hate to be such a doomer. I guess like the optimistic case is like it could. What is the opposite? No, well,
I mean, it's always in the name of safety, right?
Yeah.
You could have like cars that auto stop. All cars auto drive themselves. No more car crashes.
Yeah, I mean,
the line is always safety, right? Because it's like, okay, as soon as you try to, do something inappropriate with the AI chatbot, they send the police after you.
Totally.
Okay, but then it's, we're in a police state at that point. So what is the line here?
Dude, I think that's a great point. And to be fair, I do think AI will, it will make us more productive. Like if you generally buy that that now's the best time to live in human history, you have to owe a lot of that to technology. And this is just another enormous advancement in technology. It'll create a ton of wealth. Based on political pressures, they'll have to redistribute the wealth better at some point, which I know makes the hair on the backs of many people's necks stand up in terms of how that'll work. But there has to be a way for people who lose jobs tomorrow to find work, to make money. And I imagine there will be like forced innovation that takes place. So we'll see. I mean, it could lead the greatest era of prosperity. We also have seen so many health breakthroughs this week. It could make people healthier. It could help people live longer. It could, allow you to, access information and interface with Isaac Newton to learn, the principles of physics with the greatest physicist of all time. Like, it could have some sick applications, but to me, I don't know. They're making a lot of money for people who are possibly creating a ton of society devastating risks. So,
not to derail this point, and we can cut this off.
Resident derailer, please continue.
But so on that point about redistributing the wealth, we are kind of, and a lot of people are saying it's an oligarchy. There was those two Democrats who covered the other day that were big on that point.
Yeah.
I mean, we have gotten to a point where it seems like a lot of financial engineering is anti-capitalist and anti-competitive. Take, for instance, used to have all these private practices that doctors had, and local practices. People could start their own thing. People show up, whatever. Eventually, private equity firms come in. They buy one, they buy another. It's good cash flow, and they consolidate them. As a result, these organizations have all the bargaining power with the insurance companies, with the locals, et cetera. They've driven out pretty much every private doctor's practice, at least in our area. They can't exist anymore. I mean, that's anti-competitive and it's monopolistic, but it's allowed in the current system. What do you think is coming out of all this? And it seems right now the Republicans have a grasp, I would say, on politics in this country. That to me is a point where maybe the Democrats could come out of, Tartarus, or however you say the pit of hell.
Dude, I don't know much. I almost want to answer the question with another point that I feel like is parallel to yours, which is, and this is outlined in Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers. Shout out Malcolm Gladwell, which I'm reading right now, but I just found it utterly, utterly fascinating, and it has a parallel to today. So in 2008, if you were to do an inflation-adjusted ranking of everyone in history by wealth, 20% of the list consisted of Americans born between 1831 and 1839. These are people that cashed in after Civil War. Utterly insane stat. People like Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, people who cashed in the post-Civil War Industrial Revolution, and people who owned the railways and all that. If you look at the list today, 17 years later, you start to see Elon Musk and Larry Ellison right at the top with people like Andrew Carnegie. Obviously, these lists are a little silly because it's impossible to calculate the wealth of Caesar. In one sense, he was a trillionaire. He owned everything in the known, Western world. So it's impossible to calculate Genghis Khan. What was his net worth? You're not going to get a great Forbes estimate from that. But you look at the chart today, and it's a lot of people born in a similar era, and these aren't super young people. It's Elon Musk, it's Larry Ellison, it's Jensen Huang, it's Jeff Bezos. You do have some exceptions like Mark Zuckerberg in there, but it's people who are owning this sort of the infrastructure of technology in a way. And it's kind of fascinating to see that in this enormous internet boom, in this kind of AI boom that we're witnessing now, these people who are part of cloud computing and AI boom are joining the ranks of Andrew Carnegie and Rockefeller. And what happened, of course, with the enormous wealth created from the Industrial Revolution were some populist movements. And I wonder if you're going to see that. And they have to capitalize on that, because the fact that Elon Musk is worth about as much as Andrew Carnegie, adjusted for inflation, is crazy to think about. I mean, the list of all-time wealthy people in history adjusted for inflation is now largely consisting of modern moguls like Jensen Huang, Larry Ellison, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos.
Well, that would line up with the .com boom, right? Because it's people who came up during the boom. You've got Google, you've got Microsoft, Bill Gates, as you said, Elon Musk with PayPal. And now that they were established, they were able to buy up a lot of the AI infrastructure that is making the next phase. With the exception of OpenAI, it's pretty much all .com.
Okay, that's spot on, and that's also interesting because again, not to keep going back to this point, but like the people before in 1831 and 1839, they also weren't too young. Like everyone always thinks of like who's young, and I think Billy, you're right. They all came up in .com, but they got ultra wealthy from cloud computing. I mean, obviously this isn't perfect because like Elon Musk is wealthy from several different areas, but like they became late stage internet era cloud computing AI now booms. So Jeff Bezos' wealth has exploded, and he's been able to capitalize on this more than other technology billionaires like say Bill Gates, who's obviously given a ton of his wealth away, so it hasn't compounded as much. But I think it's people who've navigated the internet water super well by getting hold of infrastructure rather than just kind of making one like consumer product. The only one I can think of who's like almost like a pure consumer guy is Mark Zuckerberg, although they've gotten more into hardware and they're doing well, with the Meta Ray-Bans, and I think Oculus does pretty well. I don't know, but let's just say it does to help my point. So I just feel like we're in this equivalent to early industrial revolution boom. Obviously, that's not that hot of a take, but it is kind of crazy to see the numbers line up almost perfectly with the 1870s boom in America. And I guess it's like, the one thought the one debate we were having in the office this morning is like, if these people are going to be becoming multi-billionaires off of AI, and AI is starting to affect public utilities like electricity and water supply and everything, shouldn't they have more liability? Shouldn't there be some redistribution if they are using basic resources at such large scale where 40% of Virginia's electricity is from data centers and that number is only going to go up? It does feel like they owe some level of wealth to, and also, by the way, the copyright providers. Like you look at Sora 2 and holy shit, how are they not paying liability or copyright fees to Pikachu, to Mario, to all these people who own copyright, to all these. It's I think one fascinating case, and it's going to go to trial soon. The judges did not approve OpenAI's effort to dismiss it, but it was New York Times just sued against OpenAI, where they were like, you guys trained your models off of many of our copyrighted articles, and we're going to get none of the credit when you answer people. We're going to get none of the profit. So we'll see what happens, but it does feel like, damn, dude, they're using a lot of electricity for people who are making videos of the fat women crashing those glass sidewalks.
Okay, a few points. So we definitely need to pay Pikachu, first of all. But I definitely hear you on the copyright point. On the energy point, while I agree with you in that I think there has to be something that's done, they're paying for the energy, aren't they? So
that is true.
They aren't paying for the copyrighted materials. That what annoys me about that is that the New York Times is going to get paid. I'm sure they'll get paid. Bloomberg's going to get paid. The big guys are going to get paid. Everybody else who's making news is not getting a dime. We're not getting anything.
Spot on. Dude, you know what the opportunity is, though? It's the inherent flaw of LLMs is that they are creating based on what's currently in circulation or what's like accepted. And we are able to introduce new findings. Like even our election journalism, our insights from talking to people every day, like we actually have a kind of source of information and knowledge that isn't currently circulating. So I think we can always use that to our advantage. But Billy, with all these conversations about OpenAI, it sounds like I'm about to do an ad read, but with that transition, but with all these conversations about AI, we also saw a fascinating chart that we ourselves have observed anecdotally, but now there's data to support it. And it has to do with declining use of social media. So are we past peak social media? That's the $1 million question. And according to new findings, it does seem like social media use has peaked in 2022. And it's peaked almost across age cohorts with the exception of 55 to 64. But among younger users, there seems to be a growing awareness that social media is bad for you. It's bad for your mental health, whether that's Jonathan Haidt's findings that show that it makes people lonelier, less likely to engage in social outings. It diminishes their romantic prospects, their economic prospects, all of this. And that also the feeds have gotten shittier. So you look at social media and it's less about social interaction and more so about filling spare time and just sort of being on this dopamine cycle. And that has been it. Like, look at this. Like, I remember 2014, when this starts, and like you would go onto Facebook to see, where you tagged in a new pic, like what your crush is posting. I sound AI right now, but like I do remember like
poking.
Poking. Literally that kind of social stuff.
Also, just real quick, for the viewers, you can't see the bottom part here, but the very bottom one, it says to share my opinion. It's over a 40% decrease in the past 10 years. Doesn't it feel like more people than ever are sharing their opinions on social media? Isn't that a bit odd?
I feel like they do it in different ways. Like if you look at the old posts, even of like celebrities like Travis Kelce, they would just get on there to crank out a hot take. Now I think people do it in comments or they'll like people's opinions. But like, so I that's a good point though. I do feel like people are so political. More bots. But yeah, so the fact that we may be past peak internet is fascinating because OpenAI and Sora 2 are coming of age because ChatGPT and Sora 2 are coming of age at a time where people are more aware of the problems and ills that social media and living in some version of a metaverse can create for your personal life, can create in society at large, how it's damaging us in so many different ways. So the fact that I think this is one reason why Sam Altman is doing these podcast tours is if you look at the public polling around AI, people are more pessimistic than they are optimistic about AI's future. In every survey I've seen by a substantial margin, he realizes this. And so an app like Sora that may be top 3 on the App Store right now, creating this AI slop, these fantasy worlds, people may opt out knowing that humanity and human interactions are more fulfilling than sort of absurd. Is there a new Coca?
No, I was looking for something. It didn't pop up. There's this advertisement. I think it was for Coca-Cola, where it was like of the coming of age of the internet, and they were saying like people were acting like the world was ending, and I think they juxtaposed it with AI, and like the message was similar.
Interesting.
But it didn't pop up,
dude. Well, I just feel like, I think that people are. It's funny. Hollywood was kind of the canary in the coal mine, but also in a way paved the way for some of these issues. So like you may remember that Hollywood knew this AI apocalypse was coming. Like if you think about how advertisers might feel seeing Sora 2 and how accurately they can create commercials that are effective, like Andrew Cuomo just created an awful campaign commercial using AI. But if you think about the fears advertisers are feeling, the fears that CGI workers are feeling, that video editors are feeling from AI, Hollywood was on the cutting edge, and they said, listen, you are not allowed studios to make movies that employ a disproportionate number of AI writers. Like you need to have a certain number of writers per movie. You can't buy people's, you can't just use people's likenesses without paying them. And so and Hollywood kind of protected themselves. They were on the cutting edge with their stipulations for both writers and also for actors. And they brokered deals with the studios that essentially protected their workers. The question is, can truckers do the same? Can white-collar workers in accounting and marketing and consulting do the same? I don't know if we will have a mass displacement because people know that this is going to take a ton of jobs, and I guess we're going to have interesting questions about displacement of workers. So here's the Andrew Cuomo commercial.
This is awful. So Zohran posted it naturally as his competitor. But I mean, what is Cuomo thinking? Like the appeal is to blue collar workers, so he AIs himself into the position. I mean, just take a day, go sit in the seat. Like, what are we doing here?
And it was supposed to be like a humble thing where he's like, oh, I can't do these jobs, but the job I can do is mayor. I mean, it just feels a little like weird, you know?
It does.
But okay, I mean, if people are getting off of social media, that'll be an interesting development. I think more than ever, we have to figure out how we're going to, cope with this, massive revolution that's taking place. Everyone's like, well, we've had this industrial revolution. We've had this with the internet. Those unfolded over longer periods of time. This is happening over the matter of months. And how people will be able to get employed and make money in an economy that AI could fundamentally turn on its head already is. That's like one of the questions of our age. We talk about like immigration being a question of our age. I would put this right there. How people work in an AI economy. So, in other words, I vote more houses for BlackRock. That's my vote.
I think we can all get behind that.
Well, Billy, anything else we should cover today? Any other final takes, thoughts, questions, concerns?
Nothing for me. Just hope you have a great weekend.
Dude, I hope you have a great weekend. Maybe can hang out.
Maybe.
So excited. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. And please give us 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Show some love. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
AI generated show. All right. Have a good one.